This video looks at combining a few effects together. First of all, we have a green screen here on the laptop, so we're going to be doing some chroma keying, and that is going to allow us to place an object on the screen, so to speak, and that is going to be done through corner pinning, and we have our points for our corner pinning here. Now what that will leave us with is a video placed inside our corner pin with some unsightly trackers still there. So we're going to need to also do some mask tracking to get rid of those. So it combines key light for our chroma keying, four corner perspective pin to get the object into the screen, and then mask tracking to clean up our trackers when we're done. So the results here, once again, I think I might have left the trackers on there. Let's switch that back to subtract. And you'll see the effect here. So we have the before and we have the after. Okay, so I'll start this with a fresh piece of video. Just need to get my video into a composition, and you can do this in, well, we'll start with the corner pin. So I'm going to get this back up to full resolution so I can see it more clearly. I'm going to get my track motion, and I'm going to select perspective corner pin. Now this is going to track nicely because these are very distinct looking features, and I'm going to put the trackers onto the circles, but when I've placed these all where I need them to be, I'm going to move the attach points because we don't want our video clip to attach its corners to these dots, in which case it will be kind of in here. We want it to be all the way off beyond the edges so that we can make use of the nice chroma keying on the edges of the laptop screen. So we're always, when we're chroma keying, we're always trying to make use of this natural edge. So that's why we're going to push the attached video a little bit off beyond the edges, so we'll get it cut back in when we do our key. Now you have to do this in this order. If you try and move the attach points while you're placing your trackers, it will go all over the place. This needs to be done trackers first, then attach points. So my features are set up, features are ready to be tracked. Now in this case I can use a slightly different approach in that I have a clear saturation difference between the black and white circles and the green around the edges. Everything else is going to be the same. So I'll click OK, zoom out, and let that analyze forwards. This should take maybe a minute or two. What I'll do is I'll stop it there. We don't need the whole thing, and I'll just trim my comp. So I'll go back to the point where I started tracking around here, and I'll track backwards. Now just shorten the timeline so you don't have to be watching the thing track forever. Now, so that's tracked. What I can do is I can get my video clip onto the timeline, ready to be pinned in. Okay, now that is not quite coming in at the exact dimensions. It shouldn't matter. Now I'm going to assign this as the target. I'm going to apply that. Now, so he's tracked on. You'll see that his corners are gone up and beyond the corners of the screen. Now, what I'm also going to do here, just because it's going to look a bit weird if the camera's moving in his shot and the camera's moving in this shot, I'm going to very quickly freeze frame it. The way you do that is go to Layer, Time, Enable Time Remapping, and you turn that first keyframe into a hold keyframe, and that's it. Right, so now he's frozen, and we can see the tracking a little bit more clearly. Now, this has gotten the tracking part done, so now we can switch him off and start keying. So I'll go back to my Chroma video, get my key light, and going to key it. Now you'll notice it's made an absolute show of the pixels around the screen. That's pretty typical of key light. We stick in intermediate result, and we're going to flip it into screen matte, and I'm going to up the gain, and I'm going to go into my screen matte settings, and I'm going to clip the white way back. So I have a dense white and black. Now, if I go into final result, that's still going to look really awful. So I don't. I stay in intermediate, and I combine that with another keying effect called advanced spill suppressor. And you see it actually gives back in a lot of the color into our video. If you went to ultra, tidies it up even more. Yeah, so it's now much cleaner. Okay. Now, so what I can do now is I can actually pop Richard behind, or the Richard clip behind the video clip. So if you look at the corners, he's currently sitting out on top and on front. If I drag him below, see it goes in behind the edges of the laptop. So now we have the tracking and the keying done. We just need to get rid of those markers. That's really easy to do. We just get some ellipses, and we start drawing masks. Be a little bit bigger with these, it doesn't matter. Set that to none so I can see the rest. Now I'll switch off, it looks a bit confusing, so I'll switch off all the keying so we can just see our masks on our screen. So now they will switch to none anyway, but it's good to just switch them to none so you can see that they're all lined up. Pull back out, and select them all, and see they all show up in here. And now I could change it to perspective, but I think position, scale, and rotation will do for these guys. So I will click track forward and let it do its thing. So it just needs to do a little preliminary work, and then it goes off and it tracks forward. Now, if we don't need to track the whole thing if it's taken a while. We can see it's starting to veer off here on our bottom right. So this might mean going back to the point where it starts to drift to about here. And I'd say what we'd probably want to do is just make it bigger. Oh, just leave that one on its own. Do the same for this one. And then track forward again. Okay, for some reason it just doesn't want to know about it at the end of this one. Now if that happens, and it's unusual, I've not seen it happen on this particular clip before, then you just need to manually keyframe this the rest of the way through the mask path property. Okay, so in this case we have this one here is not behaving, so I would delete the last few keyframes and then manually do that. And in fact, there's nothing stopping you from manually doing the whole thing, but it's usually much faster and more efficient to do it in an automated way. So I'll select them all, turn them into subtract, go back on to my key light effects, spill suppression, and go in and switch back on the underlying video clip. And we now have the result of the effect. So that is key light with some spill suppression and four corner pinning and mask tracking.